Hey, now the bad news here is I just realized that my disk space on this computer is nearly done. So instead of 15 minutes that I normally have for a video, I'm down to 5 for this. So I've written a couple of notes just in advance. So what I'm going to look at here is a case control study. And in a case control study, what you're trying to do is you're trying to measure the relationship between a risk factor and actually getting a disease. So the odds ratio is a number, and if the odds ratio is high, if that number is high, then it indicates there's a strong relationship between the risk factor and the disease. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do, and you probably know all of that better than me, so I'll try and do an example that illustrates the mathematics of it. So here's an example. You had 100 patients with lung cancer and 100 patients who don't have lung cancer in a study. 80 of the patients who have lung cancer, they've reported smoking over the last 20 years, so they've been smokers for the last 20 years. But if the people who didn't have lung cancer, only 10 of them reported smoking over the same time period. So what I'm going to try and do here is I'm going to try and find the odds ratio, so that's the calculation part, and then try and tell you what it means. Okay. So you mentioned in the text about a two-way table, and we're going to draw that now. Okay, so we'll draw a two-way table here. And we'll break it up like this. Okay, so in the first column, you write down the people who have the disease. Okay, so in the first column, you write down the number of people who have the disease. In this case, it's lung cancer. In the second column, you write down the number of people who don't have the disease. Okay, so keep the order the same always. That way you won't get confused. So the first column should be have the disease, and then the second column who don't have the disease. When you're going across, when you're looking across, the top row should be those who have the risk factor. Okay, so these people have the risk factor, they smoked. And these people down here don't have the risk factor. They'd never smoked. Okay. We'll try and do this. Now, let's see. If the people who have the disease, there were 100, so put the totals down here. Okay, so there were 100 people who have the disease, who had lung cancer. If you read the question again slowly, 80 of those people who have lung cancer, they smoked. So they have the risk factor. So of the people who have the disease, 80 of those smoked. Which means that if there were 100 people altogether with lung cancer and 80 of them smoked, 20 of them didn't smoke. So you can fill that one in as well. Now we had 100 people as well who don't have the disease. So there are 100 people who don't have the disease. So put those there. That's the total. Of those people, only 10 of them smoked. So 10 of those smoked. And that means out of that 100, if 10 smoked, 90 didn't smoke. Okay, so now we're going to calculate the odds ratio. Okay. Okay. And what you do is you go from the top left to the bottom right. It's a diagonal thing. And you put that on the top. So 80 times 90 on top, and on the bottom you put the other diagonal, 20 times 10. Now you must get the right one on top and on the bottom. Okay, you have to get that. Okay, so now we calculate that, and I'm going to have to do it quickly, we're less than a minute. 80 times 90 is 7,200 or 7,200. On the bottom, 20 times 10 is 200. You can divide there, you can do this in your calculator or just do it in your head. 72 divided by 2 is 36. Now what it means is the tricky part. You might think that if you smoke, you're 36 times more likely to get lung cancer, but strictly speaking it's a little bit different than that. It is if you already have the disease, you are 36 times more likely to be a smoker.